Hi, we're out at Central Kennels today with JoJo, and he's been here for a while getting some help with the training that he needed, and so we wanted to give you a little bit more about his story. So JoJo is one of the dogs that we brought in from China. He was part of the meat trade in China. They get bred with the express purpose of being eaten. And quite often, before they eat the dogs, they will torture them because they believe that if there's adrenaline going through their bodies, that will make the meat tastier. And so we have no idea what all the poor JoJo has experienced when he was in China, but I can tell you none of it was good, none of it was kindness, none of it was love. And so he got brought over here, and he had a rocky start in the beginning. That he went into an initial home that didn't understand anything about him and got moved right away. Got moved into another home, which was actually the rescue that brings the dogs over from China. And she had then contacted our rescue to see if we would take him. And of course I said yes, he's a beautiful boy. And so Joe came over to us. He spent a week at my house because the family that had agreed to take him as a foster to adopt was going to be out of town. And so the week he was at my house, he was phenomenal. That he was playing with one of my dogs, Paula, that came from China as well, and they just had the best time together. And so then he got moved into his foster to adopt home. And we always try to tell people these dogs that are getting moved around like that, they need time to decompress, they need time to figure out that people are okay, because that wasn't his initial experience in life. And so unfortunately they really had not understood that. We had set them up with Jennifer here to do training with them, to try and help them figure out how to let him decompress, what they needed to do in order for JoJo to be successful. And JoJo really had an issue with the man in the household, and because things kept getting put on him more and more, what Jennifer calls trigger stacking. And so, it was one thing after another that just was making it so much harder for him to be able to decompress and be able to start to trust again and learn that people are okay. And so the end result was he did bite the husband in the household because just too much got put on him, and that was what happened. Whoa. So now he's been here. Jennifer's been working with him and teaching him that people are okay, teaching him how to react in a different way when he starts to get nervous about something that's happening. And we think we're at a place where we can start looking for JoJo's family. And that's why we wanted to do the video today, because we really are thinking he's ready to start finding a family. So I wanted Jennifer to talk about what kind of family we're looking for.
Absolutely. So we are looking for a family that is willing to put in the work that it takes to earn JoJo's trust. JoJo, because he went through so much, needs time to decompress in the home that he goes into as well. We also want to make sure that JoJo transitions well, so we as Central Kennels are offering training for that to make sure that he is fully comfortable with whomever takes him home. But first and foremost, they must be patient and kind and willing to understand that this dog has boundaries and rules to follow, and then JoJo can succeed.
And what type of fencing are we looking for?
It's definitely got to be a physical fence. that we will not accept invisible fence. And, JoJo maybe wouldn't go through the fence, but it would not allow somebody to not walk into his yard if he had invisible fence. It would allow other dogs to come into the yard, and all of that could then, start stacking triggers again for him.
JoJo gets very nervous with hands around fencing. Often he was put in a crate over in China, a very, very small crate, often too small for him. And hands were also not very kind near JoJo, so he has some hand shyness. So we have been working through that, but it's definitely one of the reasons why we require a big fence, is to prevent hands being too close to JoJo's face when there is a barrier present.
And even like one of my dogs, Geppetto, is just the sweetest boy on earth. But if my neighbors try to pet him over the fence, he will go after them every single time.
Definitely.
They can walk into my house and be absolutely no problem at all. He'll be all over them. But then they walk outside and they try to pet him over the fence, and that's a problem.
Often barriers present a feeling of hovering, because reaching over a barrier presents hovering to dogs, and that's actually a threat cue in their language. So it often makes them very uncomfortable, which is why you get such a harsh reaction to that.
Yeah. So tell us some of the training that you've been doing with JoJo.
So JoJo has some basic obedience set in place. So he knows sit, lay down, stay, wait, leave it, drop it, coming when called. He also is great on a leash. He will do long distance recall as well. He also has some behavior modification. So JoJo stopped using avoidance cues. So we as humans a lot of the times do avoidance cues. We go to the grocery store, we run into somebody that we don't want to talk to, and suddenly we're turning away, pretending that they don't exist, right? So avoidance cues are something natural that dogs tend to do too. They will walk up to someone, and if they don't want to interact, they might pretend that there's a spot that's more important to sniff that's on the ground, or walk away, or hide behind a person. JoJo stopped showing those cues when he was uncomfortable. So we reintroduced those cues to JoJo, made it so that he was comfortable showing those cues again, so that we as the handlers could see those cues, see that he was uncomfortable, get him out of that situation, and prevent him from trigger stacking again into having a worse reaction. By doing this, we also reinforce positive and neutral situations to try to minimize a lot of the trauma that was once experienced. So counter conditioning and desensitization as well.
And this is all something that you'll go over with the new adoptive family.
His new adopted family is going to have owner education. They will go through training on his commands and what they are and how to handle him in certain scenarios. That way they are fully comfortable handling JoJo.
And so tell people too, like if the dog growls at you, why it is you don't want to eliminate that growl.
Yeah, so often people get nervous when their dogs growl and they want to either snap their dog, tell them to knock it off. Growling is communication. Growling is actually a form of avoidance cue. They are trying to tell you that they want to avoid a scenario. They are escalating the scenario into, hey, if I growl, maybe you'll back away. So when that happens, their brain gives them dopamine because it's perceived as a life-saving measure. And because of that, it gets routed into their brain as a pattern-based behavior. So that's where growling comes from. So when dogs are growling, they're technically showing you an avoidance cue, and you shouldn't push it.
Yeah, and to discipline them and say that you don't want them to growl. That
can make a reaction worse.
Yeah.
Honestly, it can worsen into a snap because if you take away their voice, they can get physical. Because how else are they supposed to tell you that they're uncomfortable?
Yeah, and as far as like things that people always ask us, is he housebroken? Is he this? Is he that? Yeah, he was totally housebroken when he was at my home.
How old?
What is JoJo now?
Do you happen to know? I don't know how old he is.
I'll check the paperwork that we have on him.
That's all right.
I can't remember what's on his passport.
Okay.
3 or 4.
That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking, too.
Yeah,
He's
I think
probably
he's 3 or 4.
Yeah. And
So he's a juvenile boy.
Juvenile.
Yep. And he played great, like I said, with my girl. He was fine with my other 2 dogs that didn't want to play with him. And so that was no big deal to him either. He knew who wanted to play and who didn't.
And as you can see, JoJo loves squeaky toys.
And he will play fetch with you. And so that's something that we quite often hear. I've got a retriever and he doesn't want to play fetch. Well, JoJo will play fetch. That's the...
What about being around younger people, like 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, adults only?
I don't recommend JoJo to be around small humans. He can be around older, respectful humans that are willing to respond well to the rules and listen to adults. But I wouldn't recommend toddlers because they tend to be a little unruly and sometimes can trigger stack dogs being so handsy.
And he needs a quiet household, definitely.
He should have a quiet household, one that is willing to give him enrichment and lots of exercise. I feel like JoJo would also be a great running mate as well.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
On a quiet trail, and definitely some exercise out in the backyard, and I will provide tons of enrichment opportunities for the future family to use for JoJo. So he's mentally and physically stimulated wherever he goes.
And to learn more about JoJo, he is on our website at grrr-rescue.org. And on our website, he will have his bio, and it will also tell you, if you're interested, how to get an application for adoption. We will be very picky for this boy. It has to be the perfect family for him. Is there anything else?
We'd love to find a perfect fit for JoJo.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
deserves a home and a couch.
He does.
He's a great boy.
He's very handsome.
Yeah.
He is and his tail will grow back.
Yes, his tail will grow back.
That's what I was going to say. Talk about how he did with the grooming.
Yes, so he has a groomer over at Scallywags in Point Place. His groomer loved him. He was very gentle and sweet. He was a little uncomfortable at first because he was a little uncomfortable getting up on the table. He didn't quite know what to do, but once we got him up there, he was standing for her and letting her even use clippers behind his ears, which shocked us at first because we thought that he would be a little nervous for that, but we didn't even have to use a muzzle or anything with him. He was fantastic.
Now, is he muzzle trained or not?
Yes, he is muzzle
He
trained.
is. Okay.
He comes with muzzle training too. I will make sure that he gets a muzzle that goes home with him that is a great fit.
Okay.
And a muzzled dog doesn't always mean a bad dog, so.
I believe it keeps the humans and the pet safe.
Yeah.
And-
And I think that people have the wrong perception of
People do.
what
They
a
keep.
muzzle is
My
about.
service dogs are even muzzle trained because I understand that if they were ever attacked on the job, that way I can take them to the vet and be sure that they don't end up biting a vet by accident because they're in pain.
Right. Yep.
I know. I'm sorry. I stopped.
Stop. Don't stop.